All right, welcome to another installment of DIY recording for educators. It's been a bit of time, but in this episode, we're going to be talking about something that I hinted at previously, which is my new green screen. I know the last video was quite long. It clocked in at about 35 minutes, and nobody really wants to sit and watch a video that long. So from now on, these are going to hopefully be closer to 10 minutes, maybe even less. We'll see. I don't know. I tend to ramble a bit. Um, this episode, as I said, is going to be about my green screen. And you can see that this is what's going to allow me to put any kind of background I want behind me in my chair. As much as I wish this were my apartment, this is in fact not my apartment. This is a computer-generated image, actually, that I got from either Pexels or Pixabay. And both of those are really, really nice websites for finding totally free images that you can use in all your projects. And it's got photographs, it's got vector images, it's got illustrations, and I'll put links to those two websites in the episode notes so that you can go take a look. Really, really good resource. But for now, let's get on with talking about this green screen. Oops. So, all right, what are my updates? Obviously, the green screen is going to be primary. This is a picture of the unit I bought, and it's by a company called Elgato. And Elgato primarily makes equipment for people who are streaming video games. And as you know from my last video, that's kind of how we're trying to model this whole production suite, because I think they provide a really good example of how to create video content on kind of a lower budget. And I think it would really work really well for educators using PowerPoint or using, desktop applications, stuff like that. So this was actually on the expensive side of green screens. $150 is pretty high up there. But the reason I got this one is because it's actually quite cool, and I've never seen a unit like this. It comes in a stand that opens up. And inside the stand is the whole green screen, but it's rolled up when you get the stand. So when you open the stand, you can simply roll the green screen up all the way, and in the back there are these crossbars that keep it steady and in place. This is super cool because, once you roll the green screen back down, you can just, close it, fold it up, put it under your desk, under your bed, somewhere out of the way. And it's a lot more convenient to handle, as opposed to traditional green screens where you get a green piece of fabric. You often have to de-wrinkle it. You have to put it up on some kind of stand. You have to clamp it onto the stand. And if you don't want to leave it up, then you have to take it down and, store it somewhere. It's a lot of work. And, this is quite a small space. We don't necessarily need 10 feet of green screen. And I didn't want to have to deal with de-wrinkling it and clamping it up. So for me, the price of this was definitely one of those things that was totally worth it. One of the downsides to this setup is this green screen is not particularly wide. In fact, it just about covers, from this end to this end. You can see I have a bit of a mask down here to get rid of the corners, but this is pretty much the width, and it's still not that far behind me. I wish it were a bit farther behind, because the more separation you have between your subject and the green screen, the better your lighting is going to be and the better your keying is going to be. Keying meaning the process of taking out the background and separating yourself from the color green. The farther away you are, the better. But with this particular unit, I can't actually get that far because then it won't fill my entire video frame. So that's the only major downside, really. I mean, other than the cost is pretty high, but this is probably, other than the microphone, which I don't even think was that much more expensive, this is probably the most expensive thing that I've purchased for this setup. And again, like I said, the convenience I think is totally worth it. Okay, so, oops. Actually, this is something that I'm going to talk about as well, and that is my other update, which is Epic Pen. Epic Pen is a free software that you don't necessarily need. The reason I need it is because my primary monitor, where I have my PowerPoint presentation running, is actually an ultra wide monitor. And so my PowerPoint presentation is only taking up a corner of it. The issue with PowerPoint is that if you are not technically full screen, this isn't really full screen, this is just showing the presentation in a smaller window. If you're not in full screen mode in PowerPoint, you cannot use PowerPoint's own annotation function. So this is the only reason why I have Epic Pen. And you know, I sort of like this, especially if you're not actually using PowerPoint, because this allows you to annotate anywhere on your screen. You know, it doesn't have to be PowerPoint. It can be a game. It can be a piece of software. It can be code. It can be whatever you're running on your desktop. It can be a video. It can be a picture, anything like that. So if you don't want to be tied to PowerPoint, this is a really, really useful tool. The one thing I don't really like is the giant pen icon. Pencil icon, but Epic Pen actually does have a version that's not necessarily free. You can upgrade for $20. I'm not really sure what kind of stuff you get for $20, but if there's possibly a way to get rid of that big cursor, that would probably be good. You know, $20 I think is, well, I'll look into it and see if the $20 is worth it, and I'll let you know. Okay, next. The only other update I really have is this PowerPoint template, and you may have realized that this is a bit different than my last one. I decided I really wanted to use this cool hexagon background for something. So I made this PowerPoint template, and I have spaces for the title and for the content. And this PowerPoint template, I'm going to create an entire separate video for this template, because the way that I designed this and the way that I design most of my PowerPoints, actually all of my PowerPoints, is with some very specific design things in mind. The main one being a concept called safety. And safety, if you've ever been in video, there's a thing called title safety, which is the area where you need to keep your text in your video in order to ensure that it doesn't get cut off when it's viewed on somebody else's screen. This was mostly a rule for, analog television sets that had the curve, especially 4:3 ones, where you weren't really sure where the picture was going to get cut off. So there's a certain area where it's considered safe to put your text in, and that's how I've been designing my PowerPoint templates. There are some things in here that give you an idea of where the text should go in order to be completely title safe. But we will talk about that in the next video, because we're trying to keep these a bit shorter. So this is how my setup looks now. And in order to light the green screen, I added a couple different lights. So these were the ones I talked about before. These are, pointing down on myself to light my face. And then in addition to that, you have two lights, one here and one here that you can't really see behind my chair. These are pointing back behind me towards the green screen. And ideally, what I would also have is another light shining down from behind onto the back of my head. So that would complete this traditional 3-point lighting setup. And what that would do is it would give a bit of a lighting effect on my head, so that you get a bit of separation between my head and the background. It would also probably help with the keying a little bit. But the keying itself is just done in OBS, and it's okay. It's not as good as I would hope it to be. I actually had to spend a lot of time tweaking it to get it right. I think if I didn't have this chair behind me, it would probably be a bit easier, because the chair has certain reflections, and it's not a professional keyer by any means, but it works. So we have that. Okay, so the bill so far. Now, this is all the equipment that I talked about in my last equipment video, and this was the cost of everything from that video, not including the green screen. And the total there was about $311, which is pretty dang good, you know, for creating video that's doesn't just look like Skype video, that's actually has, you know, close to proper lighting and you know, a live switching scenario that, you know, you could easily spend $5,000, $10,000 on something like that, especially if you were in a studio space. So $311, not too bad. With the green screen, additional $155, that puts the total to $466. Still not that bad. This is, of course, not including the computer and the Wacom, but if you need those things, you know, my Wacom is a pro model. It's a couple $100. You know, you could probably get another one for 80 or 100. And the computer is my custom built PC, so I'm not even going to get into that. But, you know, you could also just use your laptop for this entire setup and it would work as well. So, as always, if you have questions, comments, or ideas, just shoot me an email, michelle.ambers@gmail.com, and I will see you in the next video, which is going to be all about title safety.